Angels, it's Hailey Reese, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am so beyond grateful that you are here, and I really do hope that you're having an absolutely incredible morning, afternoon, or night, whatever it is for you when this video finally reaches you. Today's video is one that will leave you wondering how much of this could possibly be true. We're taking a look at yet another real-life haunted doll with a story so terrifying, many would believe it was made up in Hollywood or created for the big screen. But what if I told you that sometimes real life is even scarier than the movies? And today's case is absolutely no exception to that. Perfectly crafted and made to be companions, symbols of innocence, comfort, and childhood, with painted smiles, delicate dresses, and their tiny glass eyes. Dolls are supposed to be harmless, but what if they aren't? Throughout history, dolls have appeared in almost every culture, carved, sewn, sculpted, each one meant to mimic life. But sometimes they do more than that. Sometimes they become vessels for something else, something dark, something that was never meant to be near a child, something that watches, and something said to be evil. In today's video, we're diving back into the world of haunted dolls. In previous episodes, we've explored some of the most dangerous, infamous dolls across the world. And today, we're exploring Elspeth. A doll so terrifying and so drenched in history and horror that even those who've only heard the stories of it claim to feel its presence. This isn't just a scary story about a doll, it's a story about what can happen when innocence turns into something much darker. And it all begins when a woman named Denise walks into an antique shop. It was a Sunday afternoon around fall time, and Denise found herself once again having absolutely no idea what to do with her time. At this point in Denise's life, things seemed to be a complete mess. She just divorced her husband, moved to a smaller home in an area where she knew absolutely nobody. But far worse than even any of that, Denise had just lost her daughter 2 years before and was heavy with grief, loss, and just a real sense of confusion about the future and who she even was now without the family that she'd once had. Denise's daughter had been sick for a number of years. It had started a couple of years after she was born, and during the time of the sickness, it really put a strain on Denise's marriage. The two of them couldn't seem to get along at all and felt as though they were really just staying together for their daughter. Now, unfortunately, when their daughter would pass away, their relationship didn't seem to have much left, and the two of them felt like the best thing they could do for themselves would be to divorce. And so Denise packed everything up, moved across the country, further isolating herself, and found herself nestled in a small town that she'd never even known the name of before. She tried to fall into routine, tried to casually make some friends, though she really didn't find herself good at being social anymore. And every single weekend, she would wander the town or just drive around looking for some sort of a distraction from her now sad and empty feeling life. On this Sunday, Denise found herself kind of aimlessly walking through the town, peeking in the windows, stopping for coffee, and just noticing that time wasn't moving. It felt like she'd been doing this for hours, but when she looked at her watch, she'd only really been there 15-20 minutes. Time really felt like ever since everything had collapsed around her, it went so slow. And that was when Denise looked across the street and saw an antique shop she hadn't noticed before. Now, Denise wasn't somebody who'd really purchased antiques in the past, but she thought that it could be cool to walk into a store with so many different things and that would pass a lot more time. So she wanders on over and enters the store. She said right when she walked in, she got this feeling like she was meant to be there for some reason. And she found herself really taking in each and every item. She was looking longer at the photos and taking in the stories that she was reading on the books and the postcards on the shelves. She was admiring the picture frames with photos from what she assumed to be other people, and just slowly making her way through the store when she notices a really, really unique doll sitting up on the counter. Now, immediately what Denise noticed that stood out about this doll was the fact it was very clearly handmade. The doll had been almost hand carved and had this really unique silky red hair to it. She said she felt as though right away this doll might be creepy to others, but there was something about it that drew her in. She tried to keep wandering throughout the store, but something kept pulling her back to this doll. She'd never been someone who collected dolls, but her daughter had quite liked dolls, and so she thought maybe that was why this doll was standing out to her so much. Not only was it so peculiar, but it was something that her daughter might have taken an interest in. And so when the little shop lady wanders over, Denise finds herself asking about the doll and grabbing for it too. The little shop lady starts telling Denise about the doll, the fact that somebody had kind of came in rushed trying to sell the doll to her and handed it to her in a hurry. She said that she felt like the doll was likely worth a lot more than what it had been given to her for and what she was selling it for, but she couldn't find it in her heart to increase the price because the doll had been gifted to the antique shop for such a good price in and of itself. The woman says that the doll was really unique and she'd never seen anything like it, and for some reason, this drew Denise to the doll even more. So, without thinking much more of it, Denise grabs the doll, heads to the cash, and leaves with her new little toy. Denise says that she gets home that night and walks in and immediately starts looking for a place for this little doll. She thought about going into her daughter's room and perhaps placing it in there, but she had this thing where even though it was a new home and it technically wasn't even her original room, she tried so hard to replicate the room that her daughter had grown up in, and she didn't want to put anything in it that wasn't in it before her daughter had passed. So she settles on putting the doll in her bedroom up on the dresser by her big standing mirror. That very first night, Denise remembers climbing into bed and looking over at the doll and feeling like there was something a little bit odd about it now that it was just the two of them in the house. She felt like the doll was watching her in a really eerie way. She even felt like the doll would follow its gaze toward her wherever she was in the room. So much so that for a moment late at night, she thought about covering the doll, but instead decided to roll over and fall asleep. And that was when the first of many nightmares would occur. Denise would find herself in a burning room, hearing her voice being called out to her. This voice would repeat her name over and over and over again, and as Denise would look over, she would see a little girl standing there around the flames. Denise remembers that first night waking up and completely needing to catch her breath as she felt like she was about to have a heart attack. Her heart was racing so quick, she was drenched in sweat, and everything had felt so real. And as she's coming to, she looks over and she sees that little doll. These dreams would continue almost every night. Denise would find herself in some sort of flames, hear her name being called, and see this little girl. And while that doesn't sound too scary in and of itself, there was something about it that was terrifying Denise. But as the nights went on, something shifted. The voice calling out to her started to become her daughter's. Denise started to imagine that perhaps this was some sort of trauma resurfacing, that this was something she needed to discuss with her therapist, and it was unhealed grief just finding a different way to manifest. But there was something really off about these dreams, and she hadn't yet correlated it to the doll. But in the following days, things would start getting even stranger around the house. Denise would be making tea or making dinner, and she would hear what sounded like little pitter-patter of feet running through the halls of the house. It sounded like a child running. Then Denise would start hearing the giggles of a little girl running through the hallways again. At this point, she's starting to believe these are hallucinations happening, that her grief is really, really out of control, and she's starting to hear her daughter in the hallways running around. Denise would wake up in the night hearing a little child in the halls screaming, "Mommy, Mommy." She said that it would sound like her daughter, but yet something about it was unfamiliar. She would get up in the night and go to look, and at times her own daughter's bedroom door would slam. Now, there was no draft and there were no windows open, and this hadn't happened before then, but with the little feet running and the giggles and the dreams, this was also becoming a constant occurrence. One night, Denise finds herself yet again in flames in her dream, and she sees this little girl calling her name over and over. But suddenly the little girl's face starts to shift, and she starts to look like the doll. It looks like the little girl's face is melting into the flames, and in replacement of her face is the doll's face coming to the surface. She's staring at what looks like this little girl, and suddenly she sees the doll coming towards her. She said that she feels like she needs to move, but she can't move at all, and she starts to feel like what feels like hands around her neck choking her. She said that she starts to scream and scream in this dream, and all of a sudden she wakes up and hears a loud crash. That's when she looks over and notices that the doll has fallen off of her dresser. She gets up, she turns the light on, and she looks over to see that the mirror next to the dresser is completely cracked down the middle, and the doll is off the dresser, but sitting upright on the floor. As Denise walks closer to the mirror to examine the crack, she sees on her neck what looks like the start of bruising in the shape of fingertips around her neck. It looks like somebody was choking her and strangling her. And all she can see in the reflection of this broken mirror is that doll sitting there. And it was as if in that moment, everything that she loved about the doll went out the window, and she knew that there was something evil. She said that she got the doll, she took it straight out of her bedroom, and she placed it by the front door where she intended to take it back to the shop the next day. She knew that she no longer wanted this doll. Everything was adding up at once. The strange noises, the way that the dreams had started and continued, the footsteps in the house, and the noises of child's voices and giggles, and just even the fact that doors were slamming, it all didn't feel right, and it all began when the doll came into the house. She said she went back to sleep that night after cleaning up all the glass, and that's when she wakes up in the middle of the night, just after 3 a.m, to hear her TV static blasting. She gets up and walks towards the living room, and that's when she sees sitting in the center of the living room is the doll that she had placed by the front door, looking toward the TV as it just blasts static. She never even had seen the TV do any sort of static like this, and now the doll has seemingly moved to the center of the living room, and the TV is going crazy. She absolutely freaks out. She takes the doll, puts it in a garbage bag, and sets it out on her porch until morning, and says she doesn't sleep for the rest of the night. In the morning, she gets up, and the first thing she does is grabs the doll, puts it in the car, and heads back to the antique shop. Right away, she's met by that sweet little woman, and she walks straight to the cash, saying she doesn't want the doll, she wants to return it. The woman is looking at her strange because she knew how much she'd wanted the doll, and she begins to tell the woman everything that had been going on since she got the doll. And the woman is looking at her with a blank face that's growing increasingly terrified within her eyes. Denise starts to feel bad and begins to open up like word vomit about her life to the woman. She tells the woman, "Listen, I'm probably going crazy. I'm dealing with so much grief. My whole world is upside down. I lost my daughter. I thought the doll reminded me of her in a way because she loved dolls, but I think it's made it worse. And so it's not about the doll. I just need to return it." And that was when the woman's eyes turned from fear to empathy. And you could just see that the woman felt so bad. Denise said a tear went down the woman's face when she said, "Dear, you are not crazy at all." She begins to tell Denise that when the doll had been brought in, it was quick and it was brief, but with the doll, there had been a handwritten, old-looking letter. She said that she read the letter and was really taken aback by it, but it seemed like it was just some sort of silly game or someone trying to scare someone or even just a made-up story. She'd taken a picture of the letter to show her husband and her daughter and then had thrown the letter out and put the doll for sale. The woman goes to her phone and brings it over and pulls up the photo for Denise to read the letter that had accompanied the doll, and everything absolutely changes. I'm going to read you guys this letter. Buckle up. It's terrifying. To whomever finds her, you have taken possession of the girl. I urge you, read these words in stillness and in solitude, for they are not meant for careless company. The object you now own is not a toy nor a keepsake. She is a vessel. Her name is Elspeth. In the winter of 1836, she was buried beneath the ash tree behind the old orphanage. Her small body wrapped in linen, her mouth stitched shut with horsehair. The children whispered of her long before she died, said she would speak in voices that weren't her own, said she knew when each of them would die and how, and said she never blinked. After the fire, they found nothing of the building but the black stone and scorched beams. In the center of the nursery floor, untouched by flame or falling timber, sat the doll. It was made for her by the matron, hand-carved, glass-eyed, with red silk thread for hair. After her death, it was kept locked away in the parish rectory. It did not stay there long. No place holds her for long. There are 3 rules that must be obeyed. 1. Do not speak her name aloud after dusk. Names call her. She remembers who she was through the mouths of others. 2. Do not leave her in a room with mirrors. She is fond of her own reflection. It lets her forget that she is dead. And 3. Never, under any circumstance, place her in a child's room. The young hear her more clearly. She feeds on that. You will be tempted to burn her. Do not. Fire does not work. You must return her to where you found her, alone and without farewell. Above all, if you begin to dream of ash, of a little girl standing in the corner of your room, do not acknowledge her. Do not ask what she wants. She does not want anything. She only remembers. May whatever keeps watch over you not falter. Now, as you could imagine, Denise reads this and it immediately aligns with everything that she'd experienced. She looks to the woman and the woman wholeheartedly believes her because the woman had never shared that letter with her. And yet she's telling her of dreaming of these fires and the mirror shattering in her room and the banging of her daughter's door and the strange activity. It all suddenly made sense. Denise said that she left the doll with the woman and never returned to the antique shop, but the activity didn't subside immediately. She cleansed her house, and it seemed as though there was still lingering energy. The dreams remained. Strange things kept occurring, and when she reached out to somebody to help her, they said that she'd unleashed something when the mirror had broken. Denise said they had to perform multiple rituals in her home to rid it of the spirit, and she even ended up just moving to another town shortly after settling roots there to start fresh once again from it all. To this day, Denise knows not what happened to the doll. She has no idea where the doll ended up or who has her yet, but she does believe that, as the letter says, the doll is not one that could be held onto for long. Burning it doesn't work. So surely the doll is somewhere. Now, where it is or what it wants, nobody knows. But what they do know is that the experience to them was very, very real. So what do you think of this doll? Do you think this is just another story told over the years? Or do you think there really is a haunted doll out there just waiting to remember? let me know down in the comment section below. And that is it for today's video. Anything that is meant to be innocent always freaks me out far more when children are possessed or dolls are haunted or anything that's supposed to be beautiful, cute, and lovable turns dark. It gives me the chills. So let me know what you thought of this story down below. Do haunted dolls freak you out? I don't know how they couldn't, but let me know that too. And that is basically it. If you guys are new to my channel or you are just not yet subscribed, but you do enjoy my content, I would appreciate it more than you would ever know if you would go ahead and click that subscribe button. I am uploading a new video every single day, so if you do want to see more of my content, make sure to subscribe down below or just check in on my channel every single day, as there will be a new video here for you to enjoy. Remember, my loves, do all things with kindness, and until tomorrow, I love you. Bye, guys.